the shimmering scales, and humanity's ingenuity. Deep within the sprawling Crack's dominion, a galaxy-spanning empire known for its strict hierarchy and obsession with power, lay a labyrinth of narrow streets and vibrant bazaars. The air was alive with the clamor of traders hawking their wares, the hum of alien languages mingling like a chaotic symphony. Towering above the crowds were the Cracks themselves, a reptilian species with shimmering, armored scales that reflected the artificial sunlight of the Dominion's capital city. Amid this cacophony of sights and sounds was an unassuming establishment tucked away in a shadowed corner of the market, a place known only to the bold and the curious. The shimmering scales. The tavern was a paradox. No gaudy signs hung above its door, no neon lights beckoned visitors inside. Instead, a simple wooden plaque engraved with its name and a faint glimmering pattern greeted those brave enough to enter. The interior was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of unfamiliar spices and the faint metallic tang of ionized energy. It was a place of neutrality, where smugglers, traders, bounty hunters, and travelers could gather without fear of betrayal or conflict. Here, the Dominion's rigid rules bent, if only slightly, to accommodate the unspoken code of the bazaar. Among the motley crowd sat a single human, Liam Hart. He was lean and unassuming, his dark hair slightly disheveled, and his clothes simple yet practical. To most, he was just another traveler, a curiosity at best and an oddity at worst. After all, humans were still a relatively new addition to the galactic stage, their homeworld having only recently been discovered by the wider cosmos. The Cracks, with their towering forms and advanced weaponry, viewed humanity as primitive, a species reliant on their fragile bodies and outdated tools. But Liam knew better. At his table, Liam fiddled absent-mindedly with a small object, a spork. The dual-purpose utensil had been a staple of his travels, a constant companion through countless meals in unfamiliar places. To the untrained eye, it was a trivial thing, a relic of humanity's resourceful yet rudimentary past. But to Liam, it was more than that. It was a reminder of his people's ingenuity, their ability to adapt and survive against all odds. The room buzzed with conversation as alien patrons exchanged tales of daring heists and harrowing battles. A Cracks merchant, his scales glinting like polished obsidian, sauntered over to Liam's table. He loomed above the human, his predatory gaze fixed on the spork in Liam's hand. "Your kind clings to such trivial things," the Cracks hissed, his voice a low growl. "A tool for eating, not fighting. What value does it hold in a galaxy of warriors and conquerors?" Liam looked up, his expression calm but his eyes sharp. "It's not the tool that matters," he replied evenly. "It's how you use it." The Crack sneered, baring sharp teeth. Bold words for a fragile species. Unfazed, Liam smiled. "Fragility breeds creativity. You might be surprised what a human can do with a little imagination." The merchant scoffed but said nothing more, retreating back to his companions. Liam returned his attention to his spork, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He had no need to prove himself, at least not yet. The mission revealed. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere in the shimmering scales grew heavier, the conversations quieter, more secretive. Liam observed the room carefully, his sharp mind piecing together fragments of overheard conversations. He wasn't here by chance. His journey to the Dominion had been long and treacherous, guided by whispers of a rare artifact hidden somewhere in the bazaar. The crystallis shard, as it was called, was said to amplify energy fields, a tool of immense power in the right hands, or a devastating weapon in the wrong ones. Liam's goal was simple: acquire the shard before it fell into dangerous hands. But he knew the task would be anything but easy. The Dominion was no friend to humans, and the bazaar was a den of opportunists and predators. Still, Liam had faced worse odds before. As he prepared to leave, a shadow fell across his table. He looked up to see a figure cloaked in dark fabric, their features obscured by a hood. The figure sat down without invitation, their movements deliberate and fluid. "You're searching for the shard," the stranger said, their voice a soft rasp. Liam didn't bother denying it. "You have information." The stranger nodded. "I know where it is, but getting to it won't be easy. The Zerreen raiders have claimed it, and they won't part with it willingly." The name sent a chill down Liam's spine. The Zerreen were a feared faction, their bodies enhanced with bioengineered implants that made them faster, stronger, and deadlier than any natural being. Facing them unarmed would be suicide. But Liam wasn't unarmed, not in the way they thought. "I'll manage," Liam said, his tone confident. The stranger tilted their head, as if studying him. "You're either brave or foolish, human. Perhaps both." With that, they slid a small data chip across the table. Liam pocketed it without hesitation, standing to leave. "Good luck," the stranger said as he walked away. "You'll need it." Into the bazaar. The bazaar at night was a different beast entirely. The bustling energy of the day gave way to a quieter, more dangerous atmosphere. Shadows stretched long across the narrow streets, and the air was thick with tension. Liam moved through the labyrinthine market with purpose, his mind racing as he considered his options. The Zerreen were known for their arrogance, relying on brute strength and superior technology to intimidate their enemies. But Liam had no intention of facing them head-on. He would do what humans did best: adapt. Reaching the coordinates provided by the stranger, Liam found himself in a secluded corner of the bazaar. A makeshift camp had been set up, the Zerreen's bioluminescent bodies casting an eerie glow in the darkness. They were clearly confident that no one would dare challenge them. Liam crouched behind a stack of crates, assessing the situation. He had no weapons, no backup, and no plan. At least not yet. But he had his wits, and he had his spork. Pulling a small roll of duct tape from his bag, Liam began to improvise. It wasn't elegant, and it certainly wasn't conventional, but it didn't need to be. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their physical prowess. It was their ability to see possibilities where others saw none. As he prepared to make his move, a small smile played on his lips. The Zerreen had no idea what was coming. The battle of ingenuity in the bazaar. The darkened alleyways of the Crack's Dominion's Grand Bazaar buzzed with tension. Hidden among the towering stacks of crates and glowing market stalls, Liam Hart crouched in the shadows, his sharp mind racing to outthink the seemingly insurmountable obstacle before him. Ahead, the Zerreen raiders were entrenched in their makeshift camp, their bio-enhanced bodies glowing faintly with crackling blue energy. The coveted crystallis shard rested in a secure containment field at the heart of their camp, a dazzling fragment of pure energy that pulsed with a rhythmic hum. The shard was the key to countless technological advancements, and Liam knew its potential in the wrong hands could destabilize the entire sector. The Zerreen were notorious across the galaxy for their ruthless tactics and overwhelming physical superiority. Standing well over 7 feet tall, their bio-implants enhanced their strength and reflexes to near superhuman levels, making them formidable in combat. But as Liam watched from his concealed position, his lips curled into a confident smirk. Strength and tech were no match for creativity. Where the Zerreen relied on brute force, Liam relied on the unshakable ingenuity of the human mind. The setup begins. From his tactical position, Liam studied the camp with a critical eye. The Zerreen had positioned themselves in a classic defensive formation, with sentries patrolling the perimeter and automated turrets scanning for threats. Their arrogance was palpable. They didn't believe anyone would dare to challenge them, let alone a lone human. But Liam wasn't here for a fight. He was here for the shard, and he intended to take it without the raiders even knowing what had hit them. Reaching into his satchel, Liam pulled out an assortment of seemingly mundane objects: a roll of duct tape, a spool of fishing line, a few small metal washers, and, of course, his trusty spork. To the untrained eye, it was a collection of junk. To Liam, it was an arsenal. He began his work methodically, moving silently through the shadows as he rigged his makeshift devices. Using the fishing line, He created an intricate network of tripwires connected to the washers, which he placed strategically to create noise and distraction. With the duct tape, he fashioned a simple but effective sling that he could use to launch small objects at high speed. Every movement was calculated, every placement deliberate. The tools weren't sophisticated, but they didn't need to be. Liam's goal was to create chaos, a disruption big enough to draw the Zareen away from the shard, giving him the window he needed to retrieve it. The first distraction. The first phase of Liam's plan began with a faint clink. One of the washers, rigged to a tripwire, was triggered by a Zareen sentry patrolling the camp's eastern perimeter. The sound was small but unmistakable, echoing through the otherwise quiet night. The sentry froze, his enhanced senses immediately going into overdrive as he scanned the area. What was that? The Zareen growled, his voice a low, mechanical rasp amplified by his bioimplants. Another sentry joined him, their glowing forms casting eerie shadows as they moved toward the source of the noise. Unbeknownst to them, Liam had already slipped further into the camp, his movements silent and precise. He couldn't afford to stay in one place for too long. The Zareen were fast, and any hesitation could mean capture, or worse. As the sentries investigated the disturbance, Liam activated his second trap, a string of washers, rigged to a precarious stack of crates, toppled over with a loud crash, scattering goods across the ground. The noise sent the entire camp into a frenzy. Zareen warriors barked orders to one another, their attention divided as they tried to determine the source of the commotion. In the chaos, Liam moved closer to the shard. The shard's guardian. Just as Liam reached the edge of the containment field, he encountered an unexpected obstacle. The Zareen leader, towering over the other raiders. The leader was a monstrous figure clad in advanced armor that seemed to hum with barely contained energy. His bioenhancements were far more advanced than those of his subordinates, and his glowing eyes scanned the area with unnerving precision. The shard rested on a pedestal just a few feet behind him, encased in a shimmering energy field. Liam's mind raced. He couldn't rely on brute force, not against an opponent like this. Instead, he needed a distraction, something clever enough to outwit even the enhanced reflexes of the Zareen leader. Reaching into his pocket, Liam pulled out his spork. It was a simple tool, unassuming and harmless to anyone who didn't understand its potential. But in Liam's hands, it was the key to victory. The final gambit. With practiced precision, Liam used his makeshift duct tape sling to launch the spork into the containment field's energy matrix. The spork wasn't a weapon. It didn't need to be. Instead, it served as a conductor, disrupting the energy field and causing it to flicker momentarily. The shard's hum grew louder, its glow intensifying as the field destabilized. The Zareen leader turned sharply, his glowing eyes narrowing as he spotted the source of the disturbance. He lunged toward the pedestal, his enhanced speed turning him into a blur of motion. But Liam had anticipated this. As the leader reached for the shard, his foot caught on one of Liam's tripwires. The sudden loss of balance sent the massive warrior crashing to the ground, his bio-armor sparking as it made contact with the field's residual energy. Liam didn't wait for the leader to recover. Moving quickly, he snatched the shard from the pedestal, its pulsating glow warm against his hands. The containment field, now fully destabilized, collapsed in on itself, creating a brief but brilliant flash of light that left the Zareen momentarily blinded. The escape with the shard secured, Liam bolted through the camp, his heart pounding as alarms blared behind him. The remaining Zareen, their senses returning, gave chase, their enhanced speed quickly closing the gap. But Liam had one final trick up his sleeve. As he ran, he triggered the last of his traps. A network of fishing lines rigged to a series of crates and barrels. The resulting chain reaction sent debris flying, creating a barrier that slowed the raiders just long enough for Liam to slip into the shadows of the bazaar. By the time the Zareen regrouped, Liam was long gone, the shard safely tucked away in his satchel. They would never admit it, But the raiders had been outsmarted by a human wielding little more than a spork and some duct tape. A new legend. Back in the labyrinthine streets of the bazaar, Liam allowed himself a moment to breathe. The shard was his, and the Zareen had been left humiliated. But more importantly, he had proven once again that humanity's ingenuity was its greatest weapon. In a galaxy where strength and technology reigned supreme, it was the ability to see possibilities where others saw none that truly set humans apart. As Liam disappeared into the crowd, the story of the human who outwitted the Zareen raiders with a spork began to spread, growing into a legend that would inspire awe and caution across the galaxy. The weaponization of everyday objects. The glow of the crystallis shard pulsed faintly inside Liam Hart's satchel as he slipped deeper into the sprawling labyrinth of the bazaar. The Zareen raiders were humiliated, their leader defeated in a spectacle that would soon become legend. Yet Liam had no time to celebrate. The shard's faint energy signature, even concealed, could be tracked by those with the right technology, and he knew the Zareen weren't the only ones interested in its power. Liam found himself in the quieter outskirts of the bazaar, where the grandiose stalls of exotic wares gave way to unassuming repair shops and storage depots. Here, the hum of trade was replaced by the faint crackle of welding tools and the occasional murmur of quiet conversations. It was the perfect place to regroup and prepare. He ducked into a dilapidated workshop whose flickering sign read, in crude Galactic standard, Jara's Repairs. The interior was cluttered with scrap metal, old tools, and half-assembled machines. Behind the counter, a short, stocky figure with 3 arms and a perpetually scowling face glanced up. "You again," Jara growled, her voice tinged with both irritation and begrudging familiarity. "What trouble have you brought this time, Hart?" "Just the usual," Liam replied with a crooked grin. He placed the satchel on the counter, keeping the shard hidden but hinting at its presence. "I need a workspace, and maybe a favor." Jara snorted, crossing her lower pair of arms while her upper one tapped impatiently on the counter. "You've got some nerve, human. Do you know what kind of heat you're dragging in here?" "Only the kind that doesn't know where I am yet," Liam countered. He leaned in closer, his tone softening. "Come on, Jara. You know I pay well. And besides, when have I ever let you down?" Jara muttered something under her breath in her native tongue, then waved a dismissive hand. "Fine. But you've got 1 hour. If the Zareen show up at my door, you're on your own." Improvisation at its finest. In the small, dimly lit back room of the workshop, Liam spread out the contents of his satchel and his toolkit. The crystallis shard sat at the center of the table, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. Around it, Liam placed an assortment of seemingly mundane items he'd collected during his travels. A ball of twine, a roll of duct tape, a handful of nails, and a partially dismantled drone he'd picked up in a junkyard 2 systems over. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist. He was a tinkerer, a problem solver. And in this galaxy, that was more dangerous than any weapon. Liam's hands moved with practiced precision, his mind racing as he pieced together a plan. The shard's energy could be channeled, amplified even, with the right configuration. But doing so without advanced equipment was a challenge. Thankfully, Liam excelled at making do with what he had. Using the drone's power core, he fashioned a makeshift containment unit for the shard, stabilizing its energy and masking its signature. The twine and duct tape became part of an improvised sling mechanism, allowing him to launch small, shard-infused projectiles with surprising accuracy. A few well-placed nails completed the setup, transforming ordinary bolts of energy into devastating bursts of concussive force. By the time he finished, the workshop's cluttered table had been transformed into a small arsenal of unconventional tools. To an outsider, it might have looked like a collection of junk, but Liam knew better. Each piece was a testament to humanity's ability to turn the mundane into the extraordinary. The pursuit begins. Liam's preparations were none too soon. As he stepped out of the workshop, a low, guttural roar echoed through the narrow streets. The Zerine were back, and they weren't alone. Accompanying them was a small squad of Crack's enforcers, their metallic armor glinting menacingly under the artificial lights. The Dominion's authorities had taken an interest in the shard, and they weren't about to let a human thief escape with it. Jara peeked out from the workshop doorway, her three eyes narrowing in a mixture of fear and annoyance. "You're leading them right to me," she hissed. "I told you they wouldn't know where I was," Liam said with a wink. "But now they do. So, maybe clear out for a bit." Jara cursed in her native tongue, but quickly disappeared into the back of the shop. Liam, meanwhile, stood his ground, his makeshift weaponry hidden beneath his cloak. The first of the Zerine rounded the corner, their bio-enhanced bodies crackling with energy. The leader from before, still nursing his injuries, snarled at the sight of Liam. "You dare to mock us again, human." The leader growled, his voice echoing with mechanical distortion. "Surrender the shard, and we might let you live." Liam tilted his head, feigning consideration. "Tempting offer, but I think I'll pass." With that, he reached into his cloak and pulled out his first creation, a small, shard-infused projectile rigged to a makeshift launcher. Before the Zerine could react, Liam fired. The projectile hit the ground between them, releasing a burst of concussive energy that sent the raiders stumbling backward, turning the tables. The narrow streets of the bazaar became Liam's battlefield. As the Zerine and Crack's enforcers gave chase, he used the terrain to his advantage, setting off traps and deploying his improvised weapons with precision. A length of twine rigged to a stack of crates sent debris tumbling onto his pursuers. A shard-infused nail, launched from his sling, shattered a Crack's enforcer's energy shield, forcing them to retreat. Liam's creativity was his greatest weapon. Where others saw only chaos, he saw opportunity. A toppled fruit cart became a makeshift barricade. A discarded pipe became a battering ram. Every object, no matter how insignificant, became part of his arsenal. The Zerine, for all their strength and enhancements, couldn't keep up. Their reliance on brute force left them vulnerable to Liam's unorthodox tactics. Even the Cracks, with their advanced weaponry, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. The final confrontation. The chase led to an open plaza, the heart of the bazaar. By now, a crowd had gathered, their curious eyes watching as the human faced down his pursuers. The Zerine leader, battered and enraged, stepped forward, his bio-implants glowing with renewed intensity. "You've run out of tricks, human," the leader snarled. "The shard will be ours." Liam smiled, his hand resting on the final item in his satchel, a shard-infused spork. It was a gamble, but it was all he had left. As the leader charged, Liam hurled the spork with all his might. The improvised weapon struck the Zerine's biocore, its shard-infused energy overloading the implant. The resulting explosion sent the leader crashing to the ground, his body sparking and motionless. The plaza fell silent. The remaining Zerine and Cracks stared at Liam, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. Slowly, they began to retreat, unwilling to face the human who had turned junk into weapons of legend. A legend grows. As the crowd erupted into cheers, Liam disappeared into the shadows, the crystallis shard still secure in his possession. His victory wasn't just about survival, it was a statement. In a galaxy where strength and technology reigned supreme, humanity's ingenuity had proven to be the ultimate weapon. The story of the human who weaponized the mundane spread quickly, earning Liam both admiration and caution. To some, he was a hero. To others, a threat. But to Liam, he was just doing what humans did best, turning the impossible into reality. The Galactic Tournament. The Galactic Tournament was a spectacle unlike any other in the known universe. Hosted once every 5 cycles by the Interstellar Federation, it brought together the galaxy's strongest warriors, sharpest tacticians, and most ingenious minds. The stakes were monumental. The victor would not only claim glory but also secure influence and resources for their species on the Galactic Council, the governing body of the cosmos. For humanity, still considered an upstart civilization in the galactic fold, the tournament was an unprecedented opportunity to prove their worth. And for Liam Hart, it was a challenge he could not resist. His exploits in the bazaar had already spread like wildfire, earning him an invitation to compete. But unlike his opponents, Liam was not entering the tournament with advanced weaponry, cybernetic enhancements, or genetically engineered abilities. He was armed with something far more dangerous: his creativity and a bag of seemingly mundane items. The venue for the tournament was the Crucible, a colossal arena carved into the surface of an asteroid orbiting a dying star. Its walls shimmered with energy fields, and its floor shifted constantly, morphing into various terrains to test the adaptability of the participants. Spectators from across the galaxy packed the stands, their cheers and roars echoing through the void. The tournament was divided into 7 grueling trials, each designed to test a specific attribute: strength, strategy, resilience, adaptability, ingenuity, diplomacy, and finally, survival. The first trial, strength. The opening trial was a classic test of raw power. Contestants were pitted against towering automatons armed with heavy plasma cannons and reinforced armor. The goal was simple: disable the automaton within the time limit. For most competitors, this was an opportunity to showcase their advanced weaponry or enhanced physical prowess. The Cracks contestant, a hulking warrior with scales reinforced by metallic implants, dispatched his automaton in seconds with a devastating energy axe. The Zareen representative, still nursing the wounds of his previous encounter with Liam, relied on his bio-enhanced strength to crush his opponent's power core with his bare hands. When it was Liam's turn, the crowd erupted into murmurs and laughter. The human stepped into the arena carrying nothing but a coil of rope and a spork. His automaton, a towering machine with glowing red eyes, activated with a deafening roar. Liam moved swiftly, dodging the automaton's plasma blasts with agility born of necessity. He studied its movements, noting the predictable pattern in its attack sequences. Using the rope, he fashioned a makeshift lasso and looped it around one of the automaton's legs. With a well-timed tug, he tripped the machine, sending it crashing to the ground. Before it could recover, Liam wedged the spork into a joint in its armor, severing a key hydraulic line. Sparks flew as the automaton ground to a halt, its systems disabled. The crowd fell silent, then erupted into cheers. The human had passed the trial, not with brute force but with ingenuity. The second trial, strategy. The second trial was a tactical simulation. Contestants were given command of a small fleet of drones and tasked with capturing a strategic point on a shifting battlefield. The challenge was designed to test their ability to adapt to dynamic conditions and outmaneuver their opponents. Liam's fleet was laughably outdated compared to the advanced, AI-driven drones of his competitors. But he wasn't deterred. Instead of relying on the drone's capabilities, he focused on the terrain. The battlefield was dotted with energy fields that disrupted electronics, as well as natural barriers that could provide cover. While his opponents clashed in the center, Liam directed his fleet to the periphery, using the energy fields to mask their movements. He manipulated the battlefield like a chessboard, setting traps and baiting his opponents into ambushes. By the time they realized what was happening, Liam's drones had already captured the strategic point, securing his victory. The third trial, resilience. The resilience trial was a test of endurance, both physical and mental. Contestants were placed in a simulated environment designed to push them to their limits. Extreme temperatures, shifting gravity, and relentless adversaries tested their ability to survive and persevere. For Liam, this trial was personal. Humanity's history was one of resilience, of surviving against all odds in the face of natural disasters, wars, and countless other challenges. Drawing on that legacy, Liam relied on his resourcefulness to adapt to the environment. He fashioned a rudimentary cooling system using water from a nearby stream and insulated his clothes with materials scavenged from the simulation. When gravity shifted and sent him tumbling, He used his surroundings to stabilize himself, creating footholds with duct tape and scavenge tools. And when the adversaries, mechanical creatures designed to hunt contestants, descended upon him, Liam used traps and misdirection to outwit them. By the end of the trial, he was battered but unbroken, standing tall as other contestants collapsed from exhaustion. The fourth trial, adaptability. This trial was Liam's specialty. Contestants were placed in an unfamiliar scenario with limited resources and tasked with finding a solution. Liam's scenario involved a rapidly flooding chamber with no visible exit. Most would have panicked, but Liam thrived under pressure. Using a hollow tube he found in the chamber, Liam created a makeshift snorkel to buy himself time. He examined the chamber structure, noticing a weak point in the ceiling where the water pressure was highest. With a shard of metal, he created a small explosive device using the chamber's electrical system. The controlled explosion breached the ceiling, allowing him to escape just as the chamber filled completely. The fifth trial, ingenuity. The ingenuity trial was the highlight of the tournament. Contestants were given a seemingly impossible problem and tasked with solving it using only the materials provided. Liam's challenge was to deactivate a volatile energy core that would detonate if tampered with directly. The materials he was given included a mirror, a piece of string, and a handful of metal fragments. Most contestants would have failed, but Liam saw an opportunity. Using the mirror, he redirected a beam of light to trigger a safety mechanism on the core. The string and metal fragments were used to construct a rudimentary cooling system, stabilizing the core long enough for him to deactivate it. The judges were astonished, and Liam's ingenuity earned him a standing ovation. The sixth trial, diplomacy. The penultimate trial was one of negotiation and persuasion. Contestants were placed in a simulated galactic conflict and tasked with brokering peace between warring factions. Liam's scenario involved two species locked in a bitter dispute over territory. Rather than taking sides or resorting to manipulation, Liam focused on finding common ground. Drawing on humanity's history of diplomacy, he proposed a solution that benefited both parties, a shared resource agreement that leveraged their unique strengths. His ability to think outside the box and appeal to logic and empathy won him the trial. The final trial, survival. The final trial was a free-for-all, pitting all remaining contestants against one another in a battle for survival. The arena was a constantly shifting environment filled with hazards and limited resources. For Liam, it was the ultimate test. Using every skill he had honed throughout the tournament, Liam outmaneuvered his opponents. He used traps and distractions to thin their numbers, relying on his agility and resourcefulness to avoid direct confrontations. When the dust settled, Liam stood alone, the last contestant remaining. Humanity's triumph. As the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, Liam was declared the winner of the Galactic tournament. His victory was more than personal. It was a triumph for humanity. Against all odds, he had proven that strength and technology were no match for creativity and resilience. The Galactic Council, impressed by his performance, granted humanity a seat at the table. Liam's name became legend, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when they refused to be underestimated. The rise of humanity. The crucible erupted with a thunderous roar as Liam Hart stood triumphant in the center of the Galactic tournament arena. Around him, the shimmering energy walls of the arena began to dissolve, revealing the countless spectators who had gathered from every corner of the galaxy to witness the conclusion of this monumental event. Liam, battered and bruised but victorious, clutched the symbolic laurels of his triumph, a crystalline insignia bearing the mark of the Interstellar Federation. His victory was unprecedented. A human, armed with nothing but ingenuity, had outmatched the most advanced warriors and tacticians in the galaxy. As Liam exited the arena, he was greeted by a delegation from the Galactic Council. Their towering forms loomed over him, representing a myriad of species with varying degrees of skepticism, awe, and resentment. At their head was a regal figure from the Vendrak species, a matriarch whose translucent, shimmering skin refracted light like a living prism. "Liam, heart of Earth," she began, her voice resonating with an almost musical quality. "You have accomplished what many deemed impossible. By the authority of the Interstellar Federation, humanity is granted a seat at the Galactic Council. Your species, once overlooked, has now earned its place among the stars." Liam inclined his head respectfully. "On behalf of humanity, I accept. But this isn't just about Earth. It's about showing that even the smallest voices can have a place in the grand chorus." The matriarch smiled faintly, but her expression betrayed a shadow of doubt. Not all members of the council were pleased. In the upper galleries of the Crucible, Liam could see the Zerine contingent glaring at him, their bio-enhanced forms still crackling faintly from the punishment they'd endured in the tournament. He knew their enmity hadn't ended, it had only just begun. Humanity's arrival. With the tournament behind him, Liam returned to Earth as a hero. His name was on the lips of every human, his face broadcast across the globe as a symbol of what humanity could achieve. Earth's leaders welcomed him with open arms, celebrating his victory as a turning point in human history. The new seat on the Galactic Council brought opportunities that humanity had only dreamed of. Trade agreements with advanced civilizations allowed Earth to leap decades ahead in technology. Starship fleets were modernized, diseases were eradicated with alien medical advancements, and humanity's reach extended beyond the confines of the solar system. Colonies sprang up on distant worlds, and for the first time, humans began to see themselves as true participants in the galactic community. But with opportunity came danger. The Crack's Dominion, once dismissive of humanity, now saw them as a potential threat. The Zerine, humiliated by their defeat, sought revenge. And even within the Galactic Council, factions began to form, with some viewing humanity's rapid rise as destabilizing. Liam, now Earth's de facto ambassador, found himself at the center of a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and conspiracies. The warning. One evening, as Liam stood on the observation deck of Earth's first interstellar embassy, gazing at the glittering expanse of the Milky Way, he was approached by an unexpected visitor. The figure was cloaked, their face obscured, but their voice was unmistakable. The stranger from the bazaar who had helped him locate the crystallis shard. "You've made quite the impression," the stranger said, their tone tinged with both amusement and concern. The final test. The galaxy held its breath as whispers of an ancient and forgotten power began to ripple through the cosmos. Buried deep within the ruins of a long-dead civilization, the Crack's Dominion and the Zerine raiders had unearthed what they believed to be the ultimate weapon, a relic from the time of the Arakul, a species so advanced they had once ruled the galaxy millennia before the rise of any other. Yet their civilization had vanished, their technology and power relegated to myths and fragments scattered across distant star systems. Now, the Cracks and Zerine believed they had found the heart of the Arakul's might, the Omega Core. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a device that could manipulate the fabric of reality itself. Whoever controlled the core wouldn't just dominate the galaxy. They would become its master, rewriting its very existence. For Liam Hart, the stakes had never been higher. Humanity was no longer fighting to prove its worth or defend its fledgling colonies. This was a battle for the survival of all sentient life, and the task of stopping the Omega Core from falling into the wrong hands fell squarely on his shoulders. The expedition to Zalrak 9. The Omega Core had been discovered on Zalrak 9, a desolate and inhospitable planet in the galaxy's farthest reaches. Its surface was a labyrinth of jagged mountains, frozen wastelands, and treacherous chasms. The ruins of the Arakul lay buried beneath layers of ice and rock, guarded by ancient defense systems that had been dormant for eons, until now. Liam led a small, elite team of humans and allied species to Zalrak 9. Among them were Jara, the ingenious alien mechanic who had helped him in the past, Talon, a brilliant tactician from the Arklon species, and Dr. Illyra Vaughn, a human scientist whose knowledge of ancient technologies was unmatched. Their mission was simple in theory, but nearly impossible in execution: infiltrate the ruins, disable the Omega Core, and escape before the cracks and Zareen could activate it. The arrival. The team's starship descended through the turbulent atmosphere of Zalrak 9, battered by violent winds and electrical storms. As they landed on the icy surface, the enormity of their task became clear. The ruins of the Irakal loomed in the distance, an imposing structure of towering spires and glowing glyphs that seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. "This place gives me the creeps," Jara muttered, her three eyes scanning the landscape nervously. "It's like the planet itself is alive." "It might be," Dr. Vaughn said grimly, her gaze fixed on the ruins. The Irakal were known for integrating their technology with living systems. If the Omega Core is active, it could be influencing the environment. Liam tightened his grip on the makeshift tools and weapons he had brought with him. "Then we'd better move fast." The ruins awaken. The entrance to the ruins was guarded by an ancient defense system that activated the moment the team approached. Massive constructs of shifting metal and energy rose from the ground, their glowing forms bristling with weaponry. These sentinels, remnants of the Irakal's advanced technology, attacked without hesitation. Liam's ingenuity was put to the test as the team fought their way through. Using a combination of scavenged materials and his ever-present duct tape, he crafted EMP devices to disrupt the Sentinel systems. Jara rigged together an energy amplifier from scraps, boosting their weapons' effectiveness, while Talon coordinated their movements with military precision. The battle was brutal, but the team's resourcefulness and determination saw them through. As the last Sentinel fell, the entrance to the ruins opened, revealing a vast network of tunnels glowing with an eerie, pulsating light. Inside the Omega Core, the interior of the ruins was unlike anything the team had ever seen. The walls were covered in flowing patterns of light that seemed to move and shift like liquid, reacting to their presence. The air was heavy with an almost tangible energy, and the faint hum of the Omega Core grew louder as they descended deeper into the complex. At the heart of the ruins, they found it. The Omega Core. It was a massive, spherical structure suspended in midair, its surface covered in glowing glyphs that pulsed in rhythm with its hum. Streams of energy spiraled around it, forming intricate patterns that defied comprehension. But they weren't alone. The Cracks and Zareen had arrived first, their forces spread throughout the chamber. At the center stood the Zareen leader, his bio-enhanced body crackling with energy as he worked to interface with the core. "You're too late, human," he snarled as Lamb, and his team entered. "The power of the Irakal will be ours." Liam glanced at the core, his mind racing. "You don't even know what you're dealing with. The Omega Core isn't a weapon. It's a force of nature. You can't control it." The Zareen leader laughed. "That's what makes us different. We don't fear power. We wield it." The final confrontation. As the Zareen activated the Omega Core, the chamber erupted into chaos. The core's energy surged, distorting the space around it and unleashing waves of destructive force. Liam and his team were forced to take cover as the Cracks and Zareen forces began to turn on each other, each faction desperate to claim the core's power. Using the tools and materials they had scavenged, Liam's team worked frantically to disable the core. Dr. Vaughn deciphered the ancient glyphs, searching for a way to shut down the system, while Jara modified their equipment to withstand the core's energy surges. Talon and Liam defended them, using every trick in their arsenal to hold off the opposing forces. The core's energy continued to build, threatening to consume the entire planet. As Dr. Vaughn uncovered the final sequence needed to deactivate it, Liam realized the truth. Someone would have to manually trigger the shutdown from within the core itself. Liam's sacrifice. "I'll do it," Liam said, stepping forward. The team protested, but Liam silenced them with a determined look. "This is what humanity does. We rise to the challenge, no matter the cost." With Jara's help, Liam rigged a device to stabilize the core long enough for him to enter. The moment he stepped into the swirling energy, the glyphs reacted, surrounding him in a cocoon of light. Pain seared through his body as the core's power tried to consume him, but Liam pressed on, guided by Dr. Vaughn's instructions. As he entered the final sequence, the core's energy surged one last time, threatening to tear the ruins apart. With a final push, Liam activated the shutdown protocol, collapsing the core's energy field and stabilizing the structure. The aftermath. When the light faded, Liam was gone. The Omega core lay dormant, its power sealed away. The Cracks and Zareen, their forces decimated, retreated in defeat, their ambitions shattered. Liam's sacrifice became a rallying cry for humanity and its allies. His ingenuity and courage had not only saved the galaxy, but had proven that even the smallest voice could make the greatest difference. Back on Earth, a monument was erected in Liam's honor. A spork etched into its base, a symbol of the unyielding human spirit. And though Liam was gone, his legacy lived on, inspiring generations to come. A new era of unity. The galaxy was forever changed in the wake of the Omega Core's deactivation. Liam Hart's sacrifice had sent ripples through the cosmos, not only saving countless civilizations, but also reshaping the fragile dynamics of interstellar politics. Humanity, once an overlooked and underestimated species, now stood as a beacon of hope and resilience. Liam's ingenuity, courage, and willingness to sacrifice himself for the greater good became the foundation of a new era, one built on unity, trust, and innovation. But as history has shown time and again, peace is not a destination. It is a journey, fraught with challenges and choices. And though humanity's star was on the rise, the shadows of uncertainty loomed ever larger. The Council's reckoning. In the heart of the Galactic Council's chambers, a palpable tension hung in the air. The chamber itself was an architectural marvel, a vast amphitheater suspended in the vacuum of space, its transparent walls offering a breathtaking view of the galaxy's core. Representatives from every major civilization had gathered, their holographic projections glowing softly as they debated the events surrounding the Omega Core. Humanity's new representative, Dr. Elira Vaughn, stood at the center of the chamber. Her presence was a testament to how far humanity had come. Though she carried herself with grace and authority, she knew the challenges ahead were immense. The actions of Liam Hart were not just a victory for humanity, Dr. Vaughn said, her voice firm but steady. They were a victory for all of us. He reminded us that our greatest strength lies not in the weapons we wield, but in the connections we forge. The Omega Core's power has been sealed away, but its lessons remain. We must stand together, or we will fall divided. Her words were met with a mix of applause and murmurs. The Cracks Dominion's representative, a sharp-eyed matriarch with scales that shimmered like molten silver, rose to speak. Unity is a fine concept, she said, her tone dripping with skepticism. But let us not forget that it was humanity's unpredictability that disrupted the balance of power. Their rise is concerning. Dr. Vaughn met the Cracks representative's gaze without flinching. Unpredictability is not a weakness, it's an advantage. It's what allowed us to save this galaxy when others hesitated, and it's what will keep us moving forward. The chamber erupted into debate, but one thing was clear. Humanity's presence on the Galactic Council was no longer a question of if, but how. The Monument of Unity. Back on Earth, a massive gathering was taking place at the newly erected Monument of Unity, a structure that symbolized the cooperation between humanity and its allies. The monument was a towering spire of shimmering metal and crystal, engraved with the names of those who had fought alongside Liam Hart to protect the galaxy. At its base stood a small but powerful tribute, a spork, etched into the monument's foundation, representing humanity's ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Representatives from dozens of civilizations attended the ceremony, their diverse forms standing shoulder to shoulder with humans. Chara, the alien mechanic who had been a key part of Liam's team, gave a speech that brought many to tears. Liam Hart showed us that ingenuity is not bound by species or technology, she said, her voice cracking slightly. He showed us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there is always a way forward. This monument isn't just for him. It's for all of us who choose hope over fear, unity over division. As her words echoed through the crowd, a beam of light shot upward from the spire, piercing the sky and symbolizing the dawn of a new era. The rise of the coalition. Liam's sacrifice and the events surrounding the Omega Core inspired the creation of a new interstellar alliance, the Galactic Coalition. Unlike the Galactic Council, which was primarily a governing body, the coalition was a network of civilizations dedicated to mutual defense, scientific collaboration, and the exploration of the unknown. Humanity played a central role in its formation, using their newfound influence to bring together species that had long been at odds. Under the coalition's banner, joint expeditions were launched to explore uncharted regions of the galaxy. These missions weren't just about discovery. They were about fostering trust and cooperation. For the first time in millennia, ancient rivalries began to fade as civilizations worked together to build something greater than themselves. But even as the coalition flourished, new challenges emerged. The ruins of the Arakul hinted at technologies and secrets far beyond what the galaxy had ever known. The Omega Core was only one piece of a much larger puzzle, and whispers of other relics began to surface. Some saw these discoveries as opportunities, others saw them as threats. The shadow of a new threat. Far from the celebrations and alliances, in the distant reaches of the galaxy, a new danger was quietly taking shape. The Crack's Dominion and the Zareen Raiders, though weakened, had not abandoned their ambitions. In secret, they began to rebuild, their efforts focused not on weapons of brute force, but on understanding and replicating the Arakul's ancient technology. Among their discoveries was a fragment of data retrieved from the Omega Core's collapse. Though incomplete, it hinted at something even more terrifying: the existence of a second core, hidden deep within the galaxy's core systems. Unlike the first, this core was said to be active, its power unchecked and growing. The Dominion and the Zareen formed an uneasy alliance, pooling their resources to locate and harness the second core. Their ultimate goal was clear: to rewrite the galaxy's balance of power in their favor, regardless of the cost. A legacy of preparedness. Humanity, aware that peace was fragile, did not rest on its laurels. The coalition's leaders, led by Dr. Vaughn and representatives from allied species, began preparations for the challenges ahead. Advanced defense systems were constructed around key planets and colonies. Research into the Arakul's technology continued, but with caution and collaboration, ensuring that its power would not fall into the wrong hands again. Earth itself became a hub of innovation, its people driven by Liam's legacy to push the boundaries of what was possible. Schools and academies dedicated to fostering creativity and problem-solving flourished, producing a new generation of thinkers and leaders ready to take on the galaxy's challenges. And yet, amid all the progress and preparation, Liam Hart's absence was deeply felt. He had become more than a hero. He was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when it refused to be defined by its limitations. The final message. As the coalition looked to the future, an unexpected transmission reached Earth. It was faint, barely discernible amid the background noise of the galaxy, but its origin was unmistakable. Zalrak 9. The ruins of the Omega Core, thought to be dormant, were sending out a signal. Dr. Vaughn and her team analyzed the transmission for weeks before finally deciphering its message. It was a single phrase, repeated over and over in the ancient language of the Arakul. Balance must be maintained. The message was a warning and a challenge. The galaxy's journey was far from over, and humanity's role in shaping its destiny was only just beginning.